There's a couple horror stories for me to tell a bit, but I don't know how to say it because I really don't think it could be all that scary, but I'll give it my best shot. I was alone on one weekend because I was just doing random things. But my parents were in Vegas for about a week. I didn't I didn't know how long it would be, so I thought it was okay. With my dog Jackson around the house half the time, I thought it would be all right. But right now, thought maybe it could be fun for me to have some fun with Jackson. Jackson's a dog. If you're thinking, who is this Jackson person or whatever. But anyways, mainly my dog Jackson wanted me to be around him half the time. I always wanted to be around him as well, but I didn't know what to do. Anyways, let's just skip right to the point and go to the nighttime. During the nighttime, it was a bit more darker, and I usually am comfortable around the house around nighttime as well, but there are a few stranger sounds and all that during the time. I didn't know what to think of it, but while I was in the basement, just watching a movie. I can't remember which movie I was really watching, but anyways, I heard this slightest tap. It went like, but I didn't know what to make of it. I thought it was something that was in the furnace, or in between the walls, or something that Jackson was doing. I went to go check on him. Nothing was around. I didn't know what to make of it. I couldn't even figure it out. Given it's Christmas, I would be doing a Christmas video as well. But because I would want to do something like this, it's way more better for me. Moving on to the next part of the story. I looked around the house and couldn't find anything. Given that I am afraid of my own shadow at times, I would scare myself accidentally. It would be most likely around midnight that I would be terrified, but strangely I wasn't. And then I heard something at the window. I thought, who could be at the window? And no one knew where I was. I didn't have any family around. I had to do Christmas shopping the next day, but I didn't do it anyway because I was too frightened that night. But you could also suspect that there was a poltergeist around. If you guys do believe in the supernatural, it would be nice for you to know that I believe in the supernatural. Number 2. During the times that I was around the house, I never knew what was going on. Getting to a horror story like this isn't really rare for me. I have dozens of them, but I forget them easily. Mainly because of how I think of them. It vanishes very easily. But for this one, I work at Beer Town. I didn't know where to go. While I was waiting for my parents after my shift, it was really nice to wait, but this was a couple months ago, so it didn't matter to me. I usually work in day shifts now, but during the night shifts that I did work at, it was very creepy at times because I would see these kinds of people smoke weed or something during the night. I would usually go in the back of the restaurant to see where I could get a ride or something. nothing really happened until I got home. When my parents dropped me at home that day, everything was fine until they left for dinner. I didn't know what to expect, but I kept on hearing this tiny tap of a fingernail. I couldn't make it out at all. I didn't know where it was. I looked all over the house. I looked around within Jackson as well. I finally had a flashlight, and I couldn't figure it out at all. I didn't know where it was coming from. It kept on getting repeated every time I got closer or farther away. Everywhere around the house was more creepy than before. But what could I do? I'm only a person in my 20s, and yes, I turned 25 this year, but I still couldn't figure out what I was hearing. And yes, I still do believe in the supernatural, but I don't know what I could have even expect. Because what I did expect was some kind of prankster around the house or something, but it didn't matter. Number 3. This next part I don't really know how to explain, but now I know that this could be real. While I was on a walk one day, during the day, strangely enough, I thought I could feel myself being followed by a car or something. I don't remember. I think it was a Lamborghini, or maybe it was an Akira, or most likely a Mustang. But anyways, I was with my dad this time. I couldn't figure out where this car was going, or where it was coming from. We went to the LCBO, and I was wondering where it was going to head to next. I couldn't really understand why the person was following us, but all I knew is that this one man had to be at least in his late 30s, early 40s. He could have been more of a nice guy, but when he cut us off that one time at the LCBO trying to get into the parking lot, it was a bit more strange. More to the point, after that we went to the 14 across the plaza. I couldn't figure it out, but I could have sworn he was watching me through the whole time. He was way more than 100 feet from us, and I couldn't figure out why he had a grin on his face. Either way, I don't understand the supernatural, but I know this guy was not red in the head. He seemed like a guy that would carry a weapon anywhere that he would be. But at least with me and Dad together, I wouldn't have been afraid. If it was me on my own, I wouldn't have known what to do. I would have been frozen stiff. But anyways, let's get right to the end of this one. We got home. I couldn't even think about anything else but except the guy. Later that night, I had the dream that he came to our house and killed everyone that I cared about and left me to suffer to survive. I didn't know how to explain it, but I knew I was the survivor. Number 4. Okay, for this one, it was happening recently. I couldn't figure it out. But it was around the time when my parents went out to go get some Christmas shopping done. It was during the day and during the night, but I couldn't think of anything to do but go around the house and see what was up. It was right after my Christmas party as well at my house last week, I believe. Yeah, it was last weekend, Saturday. How my girlfriend was around for that time. She went home at around 7:30. But anyways, let's get to it and think of it like this. because I was around the house at the time. And this was on Sunday, so they went Christmas shopping a bit. It was a bit interesting because I could not think of anything to do, so I went for a walk around the block, and I thought I could feel something around me that was supernatural. I would always feel the slightest thing blow through me without any wind around me. Normally, that a poltergeist could create wind. It didn't feel like anything that I felt before. No wind, no sound, just me feeling cold. I couldn't believe it when I first felt it. But then I came back home during the time that I came from the walk. And still around the house that I did feel cold because the basement air kept going through the house. I never felt as cold as I did, knowingly that the day was still going and the night was still coming. I couldn't figure out anything at all, but knowingly at the time, it happened. There was a sound at the window and doors at the same time. My parents were still gone for Christmas shopping that day. I didn't know why it came around me so fast. But when my adrenaline kicked in, I couldn't figure it out. I kept calling around the house, who was there, but no answer. Just the breeze kept on going through the doors, vents, and the stairs down to the basement. I knew I had Jackson with me, so I was a bit more happy around him. But every time I came close to my eyes, I couldn't figure it out. I knew there was a rousing wind through the places that knew more than I felt. But every time I could think of it, there was a slight tap of a finger tap. It also got more rapid, as I said in the other story. But every time I heard something else, a sound would get more, I would say, creepy. But at the very end, right when I was trying to sleep at the night, all I heard was a scream. But I couldn't think of it at all, because this was the end.